Joining us now for tonight's big close-up, Rodney Scott, Commissioner of Customs and Border Protection. Commissioner Scott, I've known you for a long time. You know, Minneapolis officials say they've been cooperating with the feds. Are you seeing that cooperation on the ground with your agents and with ICE agents?
No, we're not. So I want to level set, but I'll talk about that first. This could all be handled if they would just actually release people to ICE. Give us a notice when they're going to release violent criminals that are illegal aliens back into the population, and we'll pick them up. Sanctuary City, they won't do that. And they're not working with us local. They'll respond after the fact, but law enforcement needs to be proactive and actually work together, and they're not doing that. But I got the mic, Tommy, so if I can just remind everybody where we came from. ICE is there because we had open borders for like 4 years. President Trump came in, we sealed the borders a lot quicker than most of us thought we could because of good policy. And now it's time to clean up all those threats. But those agents that you're watching there, they've been under assault for months now. Different cities, now Minneapolis, there's been bounties put out on their heads. There's people harassing them nonstop, 24/7, when all they're trying to do is arrest people that a judge has ordered to be removed from the country because of the crimes they committed. If the state would stop encouraging this horrible behavior, the governor and the mayor there, their rhetoric is just actually inciting additional violence against our agents. That's what needs to be toned down. And the police should cooperate in advance, not after the fact.
Yeah, I'm going to ask a very straightforward question. Chief O'Hara, at different times throughout this, it seemed like a cop trying to do his job. He's got bosses that tell him one thing, and it's turned in the last day and a half into a lot of finger pointing between law enforcement agencies, which is hard for me to see because I have a tremendous amount of respect for anyone that puts a badge on. What has to happen? Why can't we have a sit down of law enforcement administrators between Border Patrol, ICE, Chief O'Hara, or even a phone call? I mean, can you pick up the phone and call him? Can Greg Bovino pick up the phone and call him? Can someone other than a politician pick up the phone and call a police chief and say, hey, we want to stay alive. We want you to stay alive. We want your constituents to stay alive. What is the way we can work together? Or has that happened?
That is taking place. That is happening. But I'll point out for the viewers, a lot of people don't understand how law enforcement is set up. Most city chiefs of police report to the mayor. So that's the boss. So the mayor is setting the tone. The mayor and the city council set the sanctuary state or sanctuary city policies in this case that chief of police has to follow. Almost everywhere we go, especially behind the scenes, the law enforcement understands that when we work together, we actually dramatically improve the safety of everybody in the community. And if the criminals or the politicians can get us to infight, it only helps the criminals. And that's it. I believe the chief wants to do the best he can. If you read between the lines of what he's saying, I get that. But he has to respond to the mayor, the city council, and in this case, even their governor is pushing the opposing side, if you will.
Commissioner, one of the claims that Police Chief O'Hara made is that ICE's training is the problem here, or the lack thereof. Could you address that claim directly and specify to our viewers whether ICE's training is sufficient or whether it has changed over the past several years?
So I can talk about federal law enforcement in general. As Commissioner of CBP, I'm over the Customs and Border Protection, which includes the officers and the Border Patrol agents, not ICE specifically. But they are very well trained, and we've actually increased the training based on these new threats that the agents are facing. We've increased our what we call mobile field force training at the actual academy, and then in-service training, if you will, like ongoing training, to do the best we can. But the primary training was to go out and arrest suspects, which is already dangerous. This entire environment where the community is encouraged by local leaders to come out and actually prevent you from making a felony arrest, it's a new dynamic. We're trying to evolve to it, but the tactics are still the same. You try to talk to somebody, you give them orders. If they don't follow the orders and they get into your face, you give them a warning. But as soon as they pose any kind of a threat to those officers or the operation, they're going to be arrested.
Rodney, Chief O'Hara said CBP and ICE has operated in the past, and he seemed to be alluding to this past where everything was hunky-dory between the state and CBP. But then he said, we don't appreciate these tactics. You just went over those tactics. Has anything changed except the fact that we have people now trying to trying to interrupt law enforcement? Is it the tactics or is it the demonstrators?
It's really the demonstrators. So the initial targeting teams, we have thousands and thousands of known individuals that we're trying to track down, apprehend, and remove from this country. That can usually be done very low key. But now when you have rhetoric, especially from politicians, that's encouraging people to follow our personnel around, post their pictures online, and in some case put bounties on their head, that changed the dynamic. So now we're basically putting out two teams, one team to make the original arrest and another team to protect those agents and officers while they make that arrest. That dynamic has changed, and then literally now it's drawn in even more attention because we're talking about it on national news right now because we have politicians doing something, honestly, I've never seen in my entire life. I've seen a lot of politicians talk about protest peacefully and everything else, but I've never seen them encourage people to actively get in federal law enforcement's face. And that's what's going on in Minnesota, unlike anywhere else.
No, it's absolutely dangerous. I have one quick question for you, just to clear this up. Earlier today, there was a press conference. Greg Bovino came out and said that every single agent involved in that incident is still on the job today. I've never heard of an incident where a law enforcement officer had to use deadly force and wasn't pulled back for their own mental health. Can you clear that up and explain this?
On the job today just means they are still fully employed. It doesn't mean they're right there in Minneapolis. Based on the doxing and the threats to our personnel, I'm not going to give out specifics, but our normal procedures are being followed.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Rodney Scott, thank you so much for